Hi everyone. I hope everyone's all right. Just setting up my iPad so I can read the messages as well. Hi Joe Wilkins, Matteo, Damien, Coy Art, Gabriel Franklin, Ben, Gabe Anthony, Seth Lynch. Hi everyone, yeah. Freddie Gonzalez, what colours do you use for portraits? It depends really, but try to use as few as possible really, just so I don't get too mixed up with it all. So kind of do a bit of the kind of Zorn palette really wherever possible, and add any colours I need to that. So Zorn is like usually just a white, titanium white, yellow ochre, a red, cadmium red usually, and a blue black, and then sort of bring other colours in depending on what what the subject matter is really. So I started this sketch last night, having watched, or halfway through watching, finally getting around to watching Shogun with my son. He's read the book, so he knows the whole thing, and he said he didn't want to watch it until he'd finished the book. So I started watching it, and I'm pretty obsessed with it. And I'm kind of thinking, like some kind of fantasy orc goblin type creature there on a stick. Don't know why. I'm still using these Pentel sign pens as well, which I've sort of kind of fallen in love with really since my stroke. It's the one pen that just suits the drawing style really, so I'm able to, they give me just enough feedback. They're not too the nibs aren't too flexible, so I can be a little heavy-handed with them without totally messing up the line quality. And they give me that sort of Mobius, Jean Giraud kind of variability in the width of the lines. So that's why I've stuck with them. I don't know what it is about the brown, but I've just kind of got right into using just this brown colour for the time being. And since the stroke, I've had to be a bit more sort of selective about my lines, and not. I used to be quite sort of messy and haphazard sketchy. I'd just throw stuff down and fix it on the fly, and because I've lost a bit of that real control, especially when it's the sketchier stuff, I'm having to be a bit more sort of mindful of each line I'm putting in place really. Seth Lynch, what are you thinking about? Hey, Jacob, has your book arrived yet? Or is it still in Heathrow? So Seth's asked, what are you thinking about when doing such soulful gestures? Like this one, there was a character in the TV show who had this really cool hat on, and it reminded me of a drawing I remember. I think the first time I met Jungi, which was, I think, in San Francisco, at an event put on by a group of really kind of cool artists. The group was called Massive Black, but there was a lot of different individuals involved. I met some really great, artists through that. Marko Djurdjevic, a guy called Coro, and Karl Kopinski, Sean Barber. Really, inspiring event. And it was the first time I met Jungi. And he sort of, I think it's in the Black sketchbook he did, maybe 2017. He sketched the whole live drawing area. So myself included. And he did these really cool sort of samurai. I think they were fighting an octopus monster or something. How he sketches, he sort of randomly creates these weird scenarios. So when I saw the character in Shogun wearing a similar hat, I think it's it just kind of triggered that memory and made me think, oh, I'm going to do something like that. So that's where I'm at really with it. Sorry, my iPad just slowly updating there. Marco, ciao, come over. Damien, what process to colour MTG card, paint or digital? For me, I gave up digital a long time ago. I just was not getting the results I wanted, and I was sort of lost in trying to work out other people's processes that I really liked and couldn't make my work look like that. So I went back to traditionally. So what I'll tend to do is a pencil drawing. You usually have to do a thumbnail to get it approved by the art director. So you submit that, and then I'll start penciling the image out. And then after that, I tend to do a sort of tonal underpainting in acrylic ink, because it's just quick, it's quite versatile, and I'll often do that in sort of sepia, occasionally adding a little bit of purple to the sepia to make a sort of darker tone, and that's my starting point. And then from there, I'll usually cover the acrylic ink and pencils in Liquitex matte medium, which is a clear sort of transparent acrylic base. So what it does, it seals all that in, and you put a couple of coats of that on your paper, and you're able to go over with like oil paints, and that's generally how I approach magic cards. Yeah. Marco, you bought a new bike. Oh, fantastic. Is it a good one? What brand? I'm not, unfortunately, able to ride at the moment outdoors. I've got a Zwift Ride, which is like a turbo indoor trainer, but I'm a little afraid to go out because my balance is quite bad since the stroke, and it just little things like, being, well, not little, big things, being aware of sort of traffic and being able to react quickly. This stroke sort of really slowed me down now. I was pretty slow before, but now I'm really, now have to walk, take my time until, my recovery is enough that I can, move and react a bit quicker to things. So unfortunately, I'm missing the bike an awful lot. It's sort of slowly driving me insane. I say again, and my wife Tara's just said, you must thank everyone for their support. So, as I'm sure you all know, I set up a GoFundMe and had a really overwhelmingly phenomenal response to that, and it's meant that I can focus, entirely on the recovery. I don't have to look for work that I'm able to do with my current sort of state of rehab. So it's made an incredible difference to my life, and how stressful, obviously it's a stressful situation anyway, but it's taken away a huge element of stress, and I'm sort of forever indebted to people for that. I can't begin to say just how much it means to me, really. So I've said it on a couple of Instagram messages as well, and I'll keep reiterating it. It's just you see a lot of negativity in social media, and understandably so, especially for younger generations. But I thought this was a really incredibly generous and positive reaction to a terrible situation. So I just can't really, I will bore you with saying thank you every time I live stream, but the one thing I've decided is the only way I can sort of try to give something back is to is to stream a bit more, because you know, a lot of people used to ask me if I was going to do this, and you know, consistently, and I always put it off, or I was sort of bogged down with you know, commissions or paying work. But now, you know, I'm in a position where I don't need to sort of work for, you know, a while, and so I'm really going to try and pay back the favour to anyone who's helped me out by, you know, by streaming sort of consistently. If you're interested, I hope, you know, and hope my voice isn't too boring and drab. Tim Kaneyev, how's your health? It's okay, you know, it's slowly improving. As I said just earlier, I'm very slow, and I would say it's impacted my confidence hugely and made me a little bit sort of more anxious than I used to be, and kind of like a bit sort of nervous in sort of certain situations, but largely it's going in the right direction. Way too slow for my liking, but you know, I'm sort of noticing improvements. I wouldn't say day by day. It's not that quick, but week by week, I'd say I'm noticing improvements. So really, some of it's really boring and mundane things that you're having to relearn. But you know, I just have to hope that I keep moving forwards. You know. Brody Lindbrook, thanks. Pete, hey Pete Goslin, how you doing, man? Hope we can catch up sometime soon, eh? I used to work with Pete at Games Workshop many moons ago. Gustavo, can you talk about a process to transition from drawing from observation to start drawing more from imagination? I mean, you know, it's all out there, you know, already. I'm not going to sort of teach you anything, or not able to teach you anything new. You know, all those sort of instructional videos, and you know, if you followed Jungi's live streams, and some of his stuff is where he's sort of talking about his process and how he draws. They're all the same principles, I'd say, that I use, but you know, I spent a lot of time copying people whose work I really admired, and you know, trying to learn, not just directly copy exactly what they're doing, but trying to learn something about their process each time I did it, if you know what I mean. So, you know, whether it's, if you're using oils, whether it's trying to work out what kind of brush head they're using, brush shapes, you know, filbert, flat, round, and palettes, what kind of, you know, colour choices they're making. So always trying to learn something from it. So and then, you know, anatomy books, you know, working from life drawing, a lot of historical study where I sort of looked at costume design, and I'm still sort of really interested in that stuff. That's, I think, partly the appeal of the Shogun series that I'm watching. I'm sort of really stunned by the costumes. They're just really lavish, and you know, I mean, I'm no expert on, you know, that period and samurai cost armors and that sort of thing. But to me, they look, you know, pretty authentic and you know, very well crafted. So I always think that sort of element of, you know, believability and realism just helps definitely me draw me in. So I always try and get a bit of that into my drawings, you know, and same with the faces. You're always looking to make a kind of a believable character. I was talking with my friend Mark about it, and you know, people like Ian McCaig were so incredible at that, and you know, his work he did on the Fighting Fantasy books by Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson were a huge influence on me. So I think there's a lot of what I do is trying to impart some believability in the costumes and in the characters that you're creating. So to do that, you have to have a reference point, even if it's something you've learned over the years. So I think that's quite an important fact, is, you know, studying. And I've said in quite a few videos before, sort of learning not just like the superficial detail, but kind of understanding how things really work and are put together. And that applies for, you know, anatomy as well. You know, if you can sort of have a basic grasp of anatomy, it's really useful when it comes to kind of creating these sort of believable characters without using reference. I waffled there, sorry. See you later, Jacob. Off to work probably, I bet. I really like your jacket you wore with the cow print and I think turquoise. Oh, the brown and white one. Yeah, that's a nice fleece, that is. It's I think it's by Penfield. I've actually done a bit of work with them. So yeah, Penfield fleece. I've worn it out actually. It's been so cold here that I've had it on most of the winter. It's starting to smell a bit. Yeah, fire extinguishers, that's right, Illumidas, yeah. Todd McFarlane, yeah, I loved his stuff. I was really kind of, for a while, convinced I was going to be a comic artist, but when I did get my opportunity, I was absolutely hopeless at it. So, but for a while, yeah, I was big into, you know, Bisley, McFarlane, a lot of the 2000 AD artists as Kara and Kev Walker, loads of those kind of guys were where I wanted to be, you know, at. But then when I did get the opportunity, I was so slow, it was actually hopeless. Sepatsu from Finland. I'd love to visit Finland one day. Yeah, jump into Shogun, definitely. Anyone who's not watched it, it's a little, like, not slow to get going, but it's a slow burner, you know. But stick with it. It's really, really great. Really sort of really well kind of constructed, you know, series with a good sort of balance of, you know, historical reference, and it's not fantasy, but some fantastic sequences, you know.
Would you like me to read the comments for you? You sure?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks, Tara.
How can you read them though?
There.
Okay. Well done.
Thank you. How's the grip right now? Yeah, the grip's... Yeah, Tara's come in and she's gone now, so I think she thought I couldn't read the comments, but I've got them on my iPad. The grips, I mean, you know, it's getting there. It's really, really unbelievably frustrating, and I don't know, it's actually... And I know there's a lot of people who are struck by, you know, strokes, and they don't recover as well as I have this time. But it's a terrifying, you know, scenario. Just to go to bed and wake, unable to sort of, well, when it happened, I could barely walk. I sort of collapsed on the kitchen floor. So, but you know, I think the thing that's hit me hardest is, you know, that you can go to bed, you know, healthy. I'd just been to Amsterdam with my family and had a fantastic, you know, time. Visited the Rijksmuseum and the Van Gogh Museum, and it was just buzzing and couldn't wait to get back into work, and, you know, had loads of ideas for paintings. And, you know, you go to bed and wake up and that's all been taken away from you. I mean, to the point where when I woke the next day, the Saturday morning, I didn't even know if I'd ever walk again. Speech was affected. Yeah, so it's really horrific. But the one thing I noticed that even the first morning that I had, you know, a tiny bit of movement, I could move my arm, not very controlled, but I could lift it and, you know, just about wiggle my fingers. And so that was all I had to go on, and just hope and pray that, you know, from there you've got something to work at. So yeah, it's pretty terrifying actually when it happens. But I don't know, all I can do is keep trying to you know, work at it and move forward. But yeah, it's awful really. Have quite bad days. Some days, like this morning, just didn't want to, really found it really hard to get going. So I would say, without being overly dramatic. Every day's a real battle to get through, and some days you get to the end of it and think, yeah, you know, I did well there, and you know, fought well and made some progress. Other days you just, yeah, you know, just feel like you've been kicked and kicked and kicked. So yeah, it's hard. The chat window's more, yeah, it's okay, but as long as I keep refreshing the chat window, yeah. Hi Eva.
I'll just taught me how to play GTA.
Oh. Hi from Chile. Of the Demon Prince, you drew so much I based my online name on it. Thank you. Probably your favourite Warhammer art. Thanks, Noggy Nog. Yeah, it's super hard, you know. But I don't know. I have to keep telling myself there's people in a, you know, worse situation than me, and you know, build on what I've got here now. Like these lines, I have to be really kind of mess them up if I'm not really careful. So I have to really slow down to get the sort of accuracy of the cords that connect all the armour plates together. So that's one thing, you know, before I'd have just banged them in and not really thought about it. I have to really be much more slow and considered about that. 3 a.m. No, it's like 8:30 in the evening here. Yeah, don't worry, I would be long in bed if it was 3 a.m. I'm not very good at late nights anymore. Vegan Johnny, big love, you already made it. Slow and steady's nice, yeah. Cena draws, thank you. How do you research different cultural attires to build a visual library of it? Well, some of it's just repetition, I'd say, really, you know. This one I'm working on here, you know, I made the sketch while I was watching Shogun, so you know, I wasn't copying exactly, but all the information was there for me. So you know, and then you sort of, you know, you appropriate that sort of, and I think I try to draw it a few times afterwards without reference, so that I can not just repeat and regurgitate, but also hope to sort of kind of put your own twist on it a bit, not be too like obsessed with like, oh, it's not exactly historically accurate, but you know, try to sort of build it into something believable. I'm still having to remind myself to, you know, try and keep that grip right, and also like it's really weird. You have to sort of almost really focus on the feedback you're getting from the pen. It's quite difficult. Yeah, season 2 should be good, although I don't know whether they're going to base it on the book. I think they're going to actually, you know, invent something, not invent, but, you know, come up with something that's not based on the book. So I hope it holds up, because that, my son has told me a few times the book's really, I haven't read it myself, but he said it's brilliant, brilliant read. Yeah, they were big head choppers, Vegan Johnny, yeah. Kingdom, no, I watched, well, I watched the first series, and I can't remember why. I was talking to my mate Mark about this. I think maybe at the time it was not long after I'd got knocked off my bike, and I was a bit squeamish. I couldn't really handle all the gore, so I kind of fell off watching that. But he said to me the other day, you've got to get back into it and watch there's like a movie that kind of explains the, you know, the prequel almost to why and what happened to cause it all. So I might dip into that after I've watched Shogun. I'll turn my paper here, because I struggle with certain lines. So Jean Anzaldua, Jean. Oh, thanks. Yeah, the magic stuff, I've done a fair few now. It's like, I think I've done over 150 cards. So I'm doing it, I'd say, maybe nearly 20 years after I left GW that they contacted me. Not too long after I sort of went freelance, so I was pretty lucky. And really enjoy working with them actually. They're good bunch of people to work with, not too, they don't micromanage you. They sort of really want you to bring your own take on their IP and their world. So I really like that approach where you don't feel, they're sort of telling you how to draw. They just want your angle on their stuff. Ashin of the North, yeah, that's maybe. What do you think of Ozzy Osbourne? I don't know, he's pretty cool. And some work related to it a while ago, so to him, so yeah. Not a massive fan of his music, but it's a bit of a British institution, I suppose. You're British, what's your favourite band? I don't know. I'm old, so I don't know. I like a lot of old school hip hop and a bit of an eclectic mix because I was sort of brought up with quite a musical household, so I like a lot of different music styles. Primity ask about Greg's. Yeah, I'm not a Greg's eater, to be honest. It's not the height of British culinary prowess, is it? Really? Hey Dylan, yeah, it's going okay, slow as I said earlier, but you know, it's progressing, so it's all I can hope for really. Not as quick as I'd like it to be, but it's moving in the right direction, I suppose. The AI giblification thing, well, I just hope it sort of implodes on itself. It's pretty boring and, you know, unimaginative really. Sort of like to hope that, you know, companies that, you know, like Magic the Gathering, who I work with, will always make a stand against it and support, you know, art and artists. I'm sort of hoping that, you know, it becomes so obviously AI. I mean, it's incredibly accurate, and you know, you can get some sort of incredible sort of believability in it. But to me, you can still tell every time that it's AI, and I'm sort of, I hope that that will render it less worth eventually. But I think it's, you know, it's a worrying time for creatives because there is a large amount of companies who use that as a resource because it's cheaper, quicker, and easier for them. But I hope that they start to realise that they all look the same, you know, the guys who are using it. So eventually you want something that will kind of stand out from the rest. So that's what I hope. Bobby C, hey, yeah, I'm doing all right, thanks. Yeah, slow, but you know, okay. Still keep making clumsy lines, you see there, that one was a bit off. Just have to go so slow on these areas, like before faces that they were real strength, and now I have to really take my time with them and make sure I'm placing my lines really carefully. I think the soul of it's still there. Well, I hope it is at least. Yeah. Physical therapy, Sathams. Yeah, it's tough. I'm working with a private physio because we have a health service here, but there's a limit to what they can do. So, you know, they'll kind of get you up and on your feet and mobile and able to wash and dress, and that's sort of the end of their you know, that's their goal really. I'm sort of a bit higher level than that, but what's happening is every time I sort of unpick a problem and start to address it with therapy of, you know, some kind, inevitably it uncovers another one. So struggling a lot with, like, I've got a lot of pain from, like, I think basically I've sat and drawn in a terrible posture and rode my bike in terrible posture and not really ever sort of addressed that. And then because of the sort of weakness in the left side and the fact that a lot of the muscles are not firing as they used to, and not as quick as they used to, it means I'm, you know, kind of struggling with a lot of pain from that. So I don't sleep so well, you know. So it's not just the stroke that's the impact, it's the sort of physical problems that it highlights that I've been sort of living with and managing. So that's quite tough. Yeah, and I'm doing acupuncture, which is, I'm not, I don't know if it's, you know, made a remarkable difference or I'm just recovering anyway and doing that alongside it. But, you know, it seems to be quite good and it's relaxing. And so I do that. Yeah, I've tried a standing desk, but at the moment I don't really have the stamina at the moment to sort of stand for long periods. So, and what I'm doing, because I've got this sort of weaknesses and imbalances, then what's happening is I'm sort of hunching over when I'm standing as well. So I do have a standing desk. It's just not a great option at the moment for me. But yeah, JD's there. Hey, from Leicester. Yeah, you're just down the roads. How you doing? What's your favourite food, Jungle Juice lover? Pasta. Always pasta. Cooper, hey, yeah, nice. Thanks, man. Sign if you were to own a single original painting from, oh no, I don't know, Repin or Sargent or, oh, there's too many. Rembrandt. I looked at some Vermeer when we were in Amsterdam, and that was someone who I'd never really studied or thought that I was particularly interested in, but I saw a couple of Vermeer that I was just kind of transfixed by, you know. there's too many. I couldn't say. I couldn't say one really. We love you in Serbia, sir. Thank you. Thanks, Vladislav. Jameson, hey man, how you doing? Hope you're all right. And hope you're not working too much, Jay. I'll probably leave it there. It's like 8:45 here in the UK, so if you ever randomly decide you want a tattoo, thanks JD's, I'd love to, but I think I'm on a lot of blood thinners since the last episode, and I don't think I'm able to get the tattoos anymore. Basically, I think you'd tattoo me and then I'd bleed everywhere, and after about a week it would just be a mushy mess. So unfortunately, as much as I love tattoos and I did want to get some, I've got one very bad one, but I don't think I'm allowed to anymore, which is a shame. Oh, sketching and drawing. You've got my green sketchbook. Thank you. Yeah, I had a few people say I should try to do like a recovery sketchbook, and I think that's quite a good idea. Even putting some of the, really terrible stuff I did when I was first trying to draw again. So maybe actually make it about the journey could be quite interesting. So I might do that. The rate I'm going, I'm producing quite a probably more sketches than I used to before, because I'm able to focus on them a lot more. So yeah, I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to do some, do a new book maybe towards the end of the year. Book recommendations, again, way too many. Like, what have I got out at the moment? I've got a Phil Hale book next to me. I've got an Ilya Repin book. I've got Kramskoy, all the Junkie books, Tarada. Just too many to say one that I'd recommend. Just dig around and find the ones that inspire you. Bobby C, did you ever meet Jim Lee? No, I didn't. No, I went to San Diego Comic Con, and I think he was at a dinner that we went to, all of us, but he was kind of swamped by fans and artists alike, so I didn't get a chance to meet him, unfortunately. But I wish I had. But yeah, I didn't know, unfortunately. So yeah, probably gonna leave it there, and I'll carry this on and post some updates or put some reels of the rest of the inking on my Instagram. But thanks everyone for dropping in. I've done the hour there, so probably do a bit longer if I start a bit earlier. So anyone who's watching, please make sure that you follow and like and share if possible, because if I can grow this YouTube a bit more and be a bit more consistent on it, I think it'd be a really good motivation and a good way to sort of make me more consistent in my streaming. So yeah, anyone who enjoyed it and anyone you think you know would like to watch it, and please just drop it to them, or share on your socials. So again, just I have to keep saying it, but thanks to everyone who's supported me, who's donated to the GoFundMe, who's wrote kind words, and sort of it's all been so motivating, and you wouldn't believe the impact it's had on me. So it's such a positive way. So it's changed my whole view on this recovery, and my whole ability to focus solely on getting better. So I just can't thank anyone who's donated, or just even just said keep going. It means so much to me, so thank you. And this is really the only thing I can do is to give back, is to do these streams, and to get better and be consistent, and just to say thank you, really. So I will keep doing this, and I owe everybody who's sort of supported me this. So thanks again, and keep sketching. And yeah, I'll put the next time I'm up, I'll announce it. Maybe I'll sort of give a bit more of a heads up for people in different time zones. But hope you liked it. I'll just take the camera and try and zoom in a bit. So excuse me, so that you can see a bit of the detail there. So once I go in, I've been using those Olo markers a lot. So once I'm happy with the line work, I'll kind of take all the pencil off, and as much of it as I can, because when you use the alcohol markers over it, it kind of greys the tones up and smudges the pencil around. So what I'm tending to do is rub all the pencils out, and then go in with, as I said yesterday on Instagram, just a couple of tones, like two different darknesses of a warm grey or a red grey, and just leave it at that. I'm quite happy with how they look once I do that, without sort of overcomplicating it. So I'll finish this figure up, and I'm kind of toying with the idea of putting another figure there in the background, kind of sitting with him, and maybe a line of sticks with more orky heads on in the background. And then yeah, but I'll keep you posted. And yeah, keep your notifications on. I'll make sure I notify anyone when I'm going live, and I'll do it through YouTube as well once I get up to speed on how to do that. So thanks again, everyone, and keep on sketching, and thanks for your support. Cheers.